el nom i el mitjà abans de cada pregunta i fer una pregunta per torn. Gràcies.
Well, hello, good afternoon. We're about to start Luis Enrique's press conference ahead of tomorrow's game with Sporting Gijón.
De cara al partit de demà, m'agradaria saber com valores aquest Sporting que ha guanyat els dos partits que ha jugat a casa.
Asking a general question about Sporting, a club that have signed 13 new players. They've won their first 2 games at home. So,
Bona tarda. Hombre, en principio,
well, in principle,
después de la gesta de la temporada pasada en la que
after what happened last season when Sporting stayed up,
y entendible el reforzar la plantilla,
it was understandable that they would sign new players.
con el Pito Abelardo entrenador y
But Abelardo is still the manager,
con las mismas características.
and the characteristics of the team are still the same as far as creating pressure and intensity,
Por el partido, en cuanto a ser un bloque durante los 90 minutos.
working as a unit for the 90 minutes, especially at the Molinón, which is their stadium, where the Sporting fans always get behind them. They make the game difficult, they don't allow much space, they try to stop the ball from circulating,
Y que presenta complicaciones
and
como lo presenta cualquier partido.
they make all the same kind of difficulties as any game played away from home.
Respecte a la lesió de Messi,
Asking about Leo Messi's injury and the comments by the Argentinian manager questioning the way he's looked after at this club.
La única realidad en todo este tema,
The only truth in this story, because there's a lot of different opinions floating around, we all seek the best for not just Messi, but all the players in the club.
que todos buscamos ese objetivo.
I think that's the objective we're all looking for. It's always bad news when a player gets injured, dreadful news. The best player in the world being injured is always going to be bad, not just for us, but anybody who enjoys watching good football. But Luis Enrique would rather not get involved in the merry-go-round of rumours, which he thinks would only aggravate the situation further.
Hola, Luis. Edgar Fornós de RAC1. M'agradaria saber quin és el futbolista que més creieu que dona el perfil a la posició de Sergio Busquets, de pivot defensiu.
Speaking about a replacement for Sergio Busquets, his role in the team, whether it could be Arda, Mascherano, for example. Well, Mascherano, obviously, Sergio Alberto, Ivan, Rakitic, Andre Gomez. They've also played that role sometimes, not that often, but we've certainly got players to cover for Busquets. Asking about the loan of Douglas to Sporting. Apparently he hurt himself by sleeping in a bad posture on the bus. Look, do you think I'm going to analyse a loan after just 5 games? He's only played in 1 game. I think it's far too early to ask me that question.
Germán García, Radio Nacional. Hace unos minutos hemos conocido que la Audiencia Nacional ha revocado el archivo del tema de Neymar.
Talking about the National Court, and seems like the Neymar affair is about to be brought back ahead again. He said he only did 2 years of a law degree. How could that affect the player? If there's a player who's used to these kind of situations, if there's a team that's used to this kind of situation, then it's FC Barcelona. All the players, the manager, we're used to things that have got absolutely nothing to do with football.
Hola Luis, Silvia Ortiz, Cadena COPE. Luis Suárez ya dio su opinión sobre el hecho de que Felipe Luis colgara esa foto con esa herida en el pie en Instagram.
Talking about Luis Suarez and the Instagram foot incident. That's something I only learnt about an hour ago.
el interés que despiertan estas noticias.
such interest in these stories. My only conclusion is that Luis Suarez has no intention of offending anybody. That's the most important thing. But things so often get interpreted the wrong way in this modern world that we live in. But I'm quite sure that Luis Suarez had absolutely no intention of offending anybody.
¿Te tranquiliza que en ausencia de Messi el equipo respondió perfectamente?
Are you comforted by how the team has generally responded when Messi's been unavailable? Yeah, last year Messi was out for 2.5 months. I don't remember exactly how many games, but the team responded fantastically because we've got a great squad in depth. Of course, we're stronger with Messi. He's the best player in the world. But we've got the resources here, more than enough resources to deal and beat any teams. That's the reality of the situation. Of course, we want him to get fit as soon as possible, as we do with any player that's injured. But I think we're all aware that to win titles, we need a full squad and we need to deal with moments like this when important players are injured.
Hola Luis, aquí Raúl Fuentes en directo para Radio Marca. Aquí, debido a la influencia que tiene precisamente Leo en el juego.
Talking about the influence of Leo Messi on the way the teams played, whether there may be an adjustment of tactics.
Pues siempre planteo diferentes opciones.
I always look at different options.
Independientemente de todos los jugadores que tengamos.
Whether or not somebody's injured or not.
Todo lo que sea no darle pistas a mi rival.
But anything that involves giving clues to my opponent, even though it's Sporting Gijón and Abelardo, who are good friends of mine, I'm not giving anything away.
L'any passat la baixa de Messi la va substituir molt bé Neymar, va fer com un pas endavant.
Talk about Neymar taking a step forward last season when Messi was injured. Could we be about to see that happen again? Yeah, well, that's the same question that people always ask me over those 2.5 months. I just hope my players play as well as they can. Whether Messi's there or not, I expect 100% from my players. So I'm not going to ask him for more than 100% because no such thing exists. But as far as maybe asking them to do different movements and different roles in the team because Messi's not there, yes, of course, I may ask different things, but certainly not to play better because I always want them to play as well as they possibly can. Asking about Paco Alcácer, whether he's adapted to the team yet and whether he's going to have opportunities to play up front. He's got nothing to prove. We all know what a good player he is. He's an international. What else do you want me to say? Yeah, well, as far as adaptation's concerned, obviously it would be useful for him to get some playing time. He's going to get plenty of that as well. Particularly now that Messi's out of the team, then he's going to be offering even more than that. But we always try to get the best performances out of all of our players. You know the opposition, you know the Molinón. Could this be similar to the game at Butarque at Leganés? And whether you might make some changes to cope with Sporting's possibilities. Yeah, of course. Well, that's we may make changes to try to give us an advantage. Whether it's going to be similar to Butarque, I don't know. I think we're looking at a different kind of game tomorrow. Sporting, they're a very intense team. This is their second season, despite all the changes in the first division. Last year, they were really good at the transitions. They put on a lot of pressure, defend very well in their own half as well. There's all the complications of the supporters there, the way they get behind the team. That's an added threat. It's going to be a difficult game for us, I'm sure about that.
Aleix Vidal ayer tuvo un incidente en Instagram.
Ask about Aleix Vidal and an incident on Instagram. He's not played for or been in the squad for 3 games.
opiniones en Instagram.
What do you think about players posting their opinions on Instagram? I think that's great. It's none of my business to get involved in what they do on social networks. It's their lives. They're old enough to decide for themselves whether they want to have Instagram or whatever social networks there are. I have no complaint regarding Alex Vidal. He's training really hard. It's not good for him at the moment because he's not been called up for the team sometimes, but it's something he's working to turn around as best as possible. What I've been managing for, 8 years, where I've had different situations with players that perhaps I've not been picking them for the squad, and they've ended up being regular members of the starting 11. So any player can turn around that situation, and if there's a manager ready to allow that, then that manager is me. Asking about the general fitness of the team with such an intense period of 7 games in 23 games. We've had Atletico Madrid, we've got Borussia Mönchengladbach coming up as well. Asking whether perhaps tiredness is setting into them at the moment. Well, it's the start of the season. I think the players are at a very high level at the moment. We've been making rotations. We've got 3 difficult games: Molinón, Germany, Vigo. So we'll try to make sure that all the players are in the best fitness we can, but I've really got no doubts in that respect at this moment, particularly at this stage of the season, because fitness doesn't really depend on any one game or 1 month. It's a 9-month process, and that's exactly what we're doing. Talking again about the heavy workload of matches. Obviously, perhaps you would probably rather players didn't have to play in international games. Talking about the International World Cup qualifiers coming up, and whether perhaps Suarez may be asked not to play in the game against Colombia. I don't have any comments on that. What's happening in 3 weeks' time matters zilch to me. To be honest, I'm thinking about Sporting tomorrow at Molinón. After that, I will think about Mönchengladbach in Germany. Of course, different national managers are interested in having their players for their games, but what I said about Leo Messi earlier on is the same for anybody.
Acaba de decir que no le piden nada de diferente ahora a sus jugadores porque falta Messi.
You've said you're not asking anything special from your players because Messi's away, because you always ask the best of them. Yet when Messi's not there, it tends to be Neymar who steps forward and fills in the role and perhaps shines more than normally. Is this something that's spoken about with you, or something that comes out of his own freedom? I never ask them to make more effort. Doesn't mean to say I don't ask them to do different plays, different movements, different positions. As a manager, I always decide what I think is best for my players and for my team. That's what I base my decisions on, what areas of the field the players should be working in. That's my work. That's my job. But I don't think you're going to see anything this time that Messi's missing compared to the last time that Messi was missing. Like I say, they don't have to do anything more as far as effort is concerned.
Ahora que no está Messi, ¿te contemplas la posibilidad de adelantar a Alex Vidal, que era extremo derecho en el Sevilla?
Maybe the idea of bringing Alex Vidal forward, as you've done with Sergio Roberto, with Arda Turan, maybe because that's a position he played in before. Yeah, well, obviously I've got different thoughts, but I'm not going to make them public because I don't want the opposition to know what's going to happen. It's not Christmas, I'm not going to give away any gifts, so obviously I'm not going to comment on that.
Hola, mister. Xavi Riera para A3 Media. Antes te preguntaban por ese comentario de Luis Suárez. El uruguayo lo dijo porque no le había gustado que Felipe Luis colgara la foto con...
Talking about the photo incident with Felipe Luis.
Apoyaba a Luis Suárez, decía que no,
And
que todo se tenía que quedar en el campo. ¿Cuál es tu opinión al respecto?
some people might say that things like that should be kept amongst the players. What's your opinion? The answer is I have no opinion.
Deportes 4, en el matiz que aplicó instantes después del revuelo Aleix Vidal, ayer vino a decir que evidentemente
Talking about the Aleix Vidal
y que alguien quería enfrentaros.
incident on Instagram, whether it's perhaps some kind of people trying to create a confrontation between Vidal and Luis Enrique. Perhaps you should ask him that yourself. Okay, that's the end of the press conference. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget, tomorrow it's Sporting Gijón. Thank you.